Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for the show. Going around the table, we have the four lovely players, starting with Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. I play Thaddeus, the Human Paladin of Bazaar.
And I'm Kay. I play Harmony, who is a wild magic sorcerer tiefling.
And I'm Melissa, and I play Mara Stormwind, who is a human pirate.
I'm Zach. I'm Zach. I play Hunter, a Warforged fighter who wears Irish wristwatches.
He doesn't, but that's okay. We stream on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, then post those episodes to YouTube the following Wednesday. Throughout the show, we use a lot of custom items and a custom wild magic table, so if you're interested in any of that, there's links which I'll mention later on. The music comes from BattleBards and TabletopAudio.com, as well as a couple tracks from Incomptech. If you're watching us on Twitch, be sure to check out the channel page for the links and info about everything I just mentioned and more. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can check the video description for the same information. Other than that, do follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter is @AntiheroesAnon, which you can find on the Twitch page. You can also find it on the Twitter page. Or on the YouTube in the description. Other than that, enjoy the show, share with your friends, and always come back for more. But before that, we'll get into a little bit of a recap before we get started. Last session, Hunter started slowly recovering his lost memories through a series of visions and learned quite a bit about the Elderhaven Reaches, where he's from. And then, after some time resting in Ciel's shop, he woke up. Afterward, the party then decided that the king of the country that they've been traveling through, Freydin, the capital city of which is Ferendel, they decided the king and queen needed to be told about what is happening in Ferendel, and that the best way to do so would be at the gala that will inevitably be held in honor of Lucavis Hammerlock, who is Thaddeus' father, and a baron who is about to be promoted to a duke. They then visited Thaddeus' family after much trepidation, where they swapped stories with his sister Astrid, disappointed his mother Muriel a little bit, and then Mara conducted some secret business with his little brother Gavin, who turned out to be quite the prickly porcupine. So we had just started with, we're going to pick up where we left off last week with the four of you in the sort of like the sitting room of the Hammerlock mansion. With Muriel and Astrid, you've been having sort of a very civil conversation with those two. Muriel pointing out all of the flaws in your friends, Thaddeus, but Astrid being very interested in them instead. And then the house help, whose name is Valerie. I almost said Vanessa, and she's not Vanessa. Those B names.
The thing I always say until you say Valerie is in my head it's Florence, but it's not Florence.
It's not Florence. It's Valerie
It's
Nightingale.
because Florence.
So Valerie Nightingale had just come into the room and announcing the arrival of Baron Lucavis Hammerlock, and then this gaunt, tall, studious, and obviously very richly dressed man walked into the room in his sort of dark suit attire, sort of surveyed the room and noticed Thaddeus and a variety of guests there who he didn't know, and said, "Ah, Thaddeus, my son, welcome home." And then he went and extended his hands for sort of a welcoming hug.
Thaddeus reaches out to shake it.
And he recoils his second hand and sort of tucks it behind his back, and then takes your hand and shakes it, and then he just says, "It's good to have you back." And then he sort of looks around the room and glances down at a little device on his wrist and says, "Well, I would say that we're due for dinner in a few hours. I'll be up in my study if any of you need me. And other than that, I'll see you at dinner." And then he turns around and begins to make his way out of the room.
Good to see you too.
So if none of you stop him, he
Yeah.
exits and turns
Can
and
I
heads up
roll?
the stairs.
I would like to roll an insight check
Mm-hmm.
to see what was the Baron's reaction to Thaddeus not hugging him.
Okay. Roll an insight check. Yeah.
to see what his.
Do some music.
What is that?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I have a new plan.
Oh
my
boy.
Instead of being put on ones, they're all on 20s, and it worked. I rolled well. Insight. 17.
17. Okay. This isn't the right music. I don't have any good music for this.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, 17. There was a slight twinge of disappointment in his face. He was expecting a slightly more warm welcome. But he quickly remasked it, and beyond that, you can't really tell how he felt about it. Yeah, there was just that little bit where it's like he was expecting a slightly different reaction.
Okay.
But it was very quickly recomposed into a calm demeanor. And then Muriel, who's sitting there, says, I think I'll also get up and attend to my plants for a little bit, if you don't mind. We have a little bit of time before dinner. You're all going to want to wash up. And she sort of looks especially at Harmony, who's currently disguised as like a little street
Like a
girl.
kid sister version of Mora.
Yeah, so she looks very pointedly at the three of you. Hunter, who's currently disguised as...
The most mundane Peter Stonebrook anyone's ever seen.
Right, this like grungy tavern owner who we met a while back. And then Mara, who's very obviously a...
You're not in disguise at all, right?
No.
Yeah.
Very obviously.
sort of rough and tumble. Yeah, and then her little sister, who looks very similar. So she sort of glances very pointedly at all of you as if to say you're going to want to get cleaned up, and then excuses herself from the room as well, leaving just the four of you and Astrid.
Do we want to go up and see if Astrid has any formal work for us to borrow for dinner?
I don't know if I have anything in Harmony's... did you introduce yourself as Harmony? I can't remember.
I think we did decide
I think so,
we
yeah.
weren't going to use fake names.
I don't know if I have anything in Harmony's size.
Oh, that's
But
okay. I can whip
You and
something
me,
up.
Mara, are very actually similar, I would say, in figure. So I might perhaps have a dress that you could borrow.
Sounds fun. Come on, Harmony. Okay. Question. How long do I have on seeming left?
I think we decided like
'Cause
3 hours or
It's
so.
an 8-hour spell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 3 hours.
3 hours left.
And when is dinner?
Like an hour or so from now, according to what
I
Davis and Muriel
have a
said.
question. If they change clothes, is anything going to happen?
No.
That's what I thought.
You mean if we change clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was wondering how much time I had
Yeah,
left on
yeah.
seeming, but I could recast it and cast us into
New clothes.
new clothes, same
That's
faces,
a good idea.
because I need to recast it anyway if it's going to run out before the end of dinner.
You can.
Do you want to do that now? While I go.
Yeah,
I
like
don't.
retaining.
I don't know if it's a good way to ask this.
I mean, conversation wouldn't be happening out loud.
Yeah.
This is like a between players
It'd
conversation.
be like a message conversation.
No. I mean, if she says she wants to get changed, I'll be like, okay, come on, Hunter. And like in her head thinking, yeah, I'll just recast the spell.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
you're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
great.
fine then. Alright. Then I'll just come with, I guess.
All right. Well, I'll go upstairs to my room. Thaddy knows where it is.
Mhm.
Actually, you saw me come out of that room when we first met, so it's
We
that one.
have
But
the
if you
door.
get lost, Thaddy knows. And Valerie is always around to help. And Valerie, sort of in the corner, just nods a little bit. And she says, "I'll go up into my room and get a few things laid out on the bed, and perhaps Thaddeus, you could take them to wash up a little bit, and then the
I
two
think I'll
girls
start.
could meet me up there."
I will start. Valley, draw a bath.
And Valerie nods and says, "As you wish it, Master Hammerlock, or Master Thaddeus." And she shuffles out of the room.
Okay,
And
where are we
then
going?
Astrid also heads out,
Where did she want us to
leaving
go?
the four of you alone.
We're supposed to clean up.
Yeah.
But we have to wait our turns.
Okay.
Uh,
unless
So-
there's
so the
a
four of us
broken
alone, right?
clothes.
Is it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess they left us alone. Oh, your family is exhausting. Oh my god! How can anyone live like this? Oh, who to do? Let's not break the furniture.
Well, I left home a long time ago, and now you're starting to see why.
Yeah, Jeez.
Listen, are you recasting something? Are you going to do a different thing?
Well, I mean, she told us to clean up, and I think my spells only got a few hours left, so yeah, I was gonna cast
Probably a
it.
good idea.
Give yourself better clothes, please. Try to look the part.
Do you have
Sure.
examples of what kind of clothes you want? Like, do we know what Noble's clothes? I guess we were in
We've seen,
Ravenmore.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
so we know.
don't
The general
worry.
fashions.
I know exactly what your mother is expecting, and I intend to impress everyone.
You're not
I
just
hope
reassured
there's-
at all.
No, but at least they won't be wearing this.
I've always wanted to know what the other half looked like.
Also, and I'm very serious about this.
Oh, he's got a serious face on.
I'm gonna roll insight, see how serious he
Try to talk out of turn as little as possible. I know it was a good joke between you and Astrid that we were talking about Serena, but you could cause damage to things that you aren't aware of.
This is gonna be the most boring dinner party ever.
We could just go back to Seals.
We could, but I kind of want to eat first.
The food will be delectable, I'm sure.
Because I'm just like, that sounds great,
Yeah.
guys. So glad I can eat it and taste it.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
There is an. Are you familiar with the concept of betrothal?
But what?
Arranged marriage.
Why would anyone do that?
It's not unheard of in high society, noble families, for this to happen. For two families to form a mutually beneficial arrangement,
Wait, are you trying to tell us that you have a
One-
fiance already,
more or less.
and you're in love with this other girl?
That's why we're not going to talk about
What the fuck is wrong with these people?
it. I've never met her.
Ugh. Yeah, we'll save
Wait,
you,
is
Daddy.
she
Don't
coming
worry.
here?
I don't know.
Oh,
Probably
okay.
not.
Just because I don't think we've talked about it. Is
Uh-huh.
Thaddeus being truthful here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, this is something I didn't know about
Yeah.
Thaddeus. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
So that's the kind of thing that you see. You might disrupt with a casual word here or there.
I just
Noble
won't say
politics are very complicated.
Ugh, I feel sick. This is gonna be really boring.
Well, we'll have to try and grit our teeth in there.
Ooh.
I'm looking forward to the food.
anything. Yeah, me too.
I'll eat your share.
Okay.
Come on, Hunter. Let's go clean up. I'm just gonna take him by the hand and pull him up the stairs.
Okay.
And you grab like this.
Yeah, it's like going through the illusion until like
Yeah.
he realizes where his arm needs to be and it catches up a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, you drag him upstairs. You find a little bit of a like. What are you looking for? Like a washroom
A room
or
that's not being used.
just like
yeah,
a broom
washroom.
closet?
Probably a washroom to make it look like we cleaned up.
All right. Roll an investigation check and we'll see what you find.
Sure.
I'm gonna go take my
I-
natural bath.
Can I
Okay.
help her?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So you can.
Roll at advantage.
Well. Oh boy. Well.
5. Okay.
I rolled a 1 and a 3.
You go around in circles a couple times, like trying to go different ways, but you end up in the same set of rooms several times. One of which is the kitchen, where you can see like the start of a meal being prepared.
Then I'm gonna find a broom closet.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. Is there's a pantry there that is like a walk-in pantry with rows of pots and pans, and that's what you find.
This'll work. Pull him inside and shut the door.
All right.
Okay,
Nerd.
and then you're going to
And they're
recast.
going clang, 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 clang
Yeah.
against all the pots. And pans.
Yeah.
Clang, 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 clang. Every time we move, clang, 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 clang.
We've been in the
Right.
city for a while, right?
Mhm.
How much of the high society have we seen?
Well, we also remember Ravenmore's noble district too.
Yeah. Yep. You've seen a fair amount of high society at this point, especially since you've just seen the outfits that each one of these family members themselves are wearing.
Okay.
I am going to make us like the same people, but in the fanciest, most expensive looking clothing that I can
think of that I've ever seen, and with the most gaudy makeup that I've ever seen.
Hunter
On both of us.
Hunter's gonna wear the Cranston crown. No, just kidding. No, he's not gonna wear
I mean, some men in the high society that you've seen do wear makeup, but
Right.
it's usually more understated than the women in the high society. So
So this will be more understated than mine.
okay,
Mine's
but
made
still
the
pretty
Hunger
gaudy.
And the most flashy jewelry.
Mm,
Really gaudy
okay,
on both of us.
like clashing with the colors of the dresses and things, or
Not so much clashing, it's just like that's all you see when you look at them.
I
okay, just
love
like
it. Come
massive.
I'm gonna
gems
resist
and
the
things.
spell. Just kidding.
You don't know what my
can
plan
if you
is though
I know.
until I actually do it, and then by then it's too late.
Can I see this coming? Have I traveled with her enough to know that she has like a
Roll an
Sparkle.
Arcana check as you start to hear her incantation.
Is it?
that's a big 14.
It's purple.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, it's as much of an insight check as an
yeah, I guess
check.
an insight check too.
Well,
which if insight's
Okay,
better, what would you
it's about the same. So yeah.
You're not quite sure. It's
But she has like
she does
Sparks
have a
in her
little bit
eyes.
of she does, but you don't know if those are the sparks of like she's actually because it's the same sparks as when she actually has a good plan.
which also turn into. I mean, they're the same thing.
Right, exactly, and that's why you can't tell.
Yeah. I'm like,
Um,
oh no. And Hunter just closes his eyes like I don't want to know what's going on.
And then there's the flash of magic. Check for wild magic.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh.
No, it's not. It may not trigger. Yeah, it doesn't trigger.
Okay.
That
really
would have
funny.
been amazing. Webs everywhere.
How did you know that?
Or just like fireball in the pantry.
Yeah, fireball.
Fireball in the kitchen. Yeah, that would have been good.
The third eye.
It only triggers on a 1 if I roll a
Yeah.
1. Unless I have Tides of Chaos primed, which I didn't.
Charlie comes in the pantry with us.
No, we're good. We're good. I was able to cast the spell. Just fine.
And so yeah, when the smoke clears, you sort of like look at your reflection in one of these pots that's on the
So-
shelves, and you see a Peter Stonesbrook like
I would
more than
also
Peter
like
Stonesbrook has
our
ever
Does he have like a
Yeah.
really big clefted chin and like no? Just
Yes.
kidding.
I would like our skin to be so clean that it looks like it's sparkling.
Oh, okay, like photoshopped essentially.
Yes.
You look basically plastic.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, Harvey,
Just
what
pristine.
like what the hell did you do to us?
We are dressed. Sadia said that we had to look the
What
part
you asked for.
and to dress the part. This is the best that I have ever seen.
Aren't you being a little facetious here?
Nope.
No.
I don't know what that word means.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back out to the kitchen.
I'll just like follow her like, oh, this,
Okay.
this is not gonna end well.
When you go back out into the kitchen, Valerie is there chopping vegetables, and she sort of gives you a side look.
We're
And
all
as you
clean.
just come out of the pantry, and says, "Ma, you cleaned up very quickly, and in the pantry,
I was hungry.
incredible." Chop, 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 chop. Just sort of like shakes her head as if she's seen weirder things, but still.
She doesn't. She doesn't suspect me.
Then do you shuffle back like to the sitting room, or where are you going?
I guess we'll go find Mara.
Okay. Where?
Well, meanwhile, I have to go find Astrid's room so I can try on some dust.
Well, you saw where Astrid's room was before.
Okay.
So you can make it up pretty easily, and you get a little bit turned around in some of the corridors because this place is huge. But having been there before, you are able to, and you've gone up the stairs twice because you also went to Gavin's room. So you find the room pretty easily. And by the time you get there, she has 4 or 5 full outfits laid out on the bed in a variety of colors. There's sort of whatever color you want. Most of her outfits that she's laid out are like those sundress type things, considering it's getting on towards summer and the weather's getting a little bit warmer. So that's the typical fashion right now. What sort of color are
Okay.
you looking for?
Let's go with the purple one.
Purple one? Okay, yeah, there's a purple dress.
Because it's more royal.
And it's got sort of like a lacy
You're
black
royal
trim
blue.
to it.
Yeah, perfect for a piratess.
And Astrid just sort of like holds it up to you and says, "Yes, I think this will do fantastically. Why don't you go into the wardrobe over there and try it on, or not the wardrobe, the changing room just over there, and there's like an annex changing room to her room, a whole nother room."
Like an alcove.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like a whole other room with
Okay.
a door you walk in and it has several mirrors, so you can get sort of like a 360 view. And there's like boxes of shoes and things lining this wall as well.
Okay. So I'll try it on and look through the boxes and find some matching shoes.
Okay. Go ahead and roll an investigation check.
Do I
It shouldn't be
discover
too hard.
anything?
I know.
Where's the investigation?
Should be on your list of skills. They're probably in alphabetical order.
Is it just insight?
Investigation.
Should be near insight.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, so it's 11.
11.
Yeah, it's not on this
Okay.
list for some reason.
Good, it wasn't just me. Okay.
No, it's not on the list. She's got like a different
No,
edition
it's
character. No, it's intimidation is there,
Okay.
but not investigation.
Oh, investigation. Weird.
All right, it's 11.
Okay. Easy enough. After a few, you pull a couple shoe boxes out before you find ones that look like they'll match. But you do find a pair of nice heeled shoes that do look like they'll match. Mara
Anything
doesn't usually
interesting
walk
on
in
the other?
heels, though, does she? Has she ever walked in heels?
Do you have heels in your boots?
Yes, I do.
A little bit of a heel? Okay. So yeah, it's no problem for you. They're a little bit higher than your boots, but it's still similar. So no problem.
Plus, I imagine you have excellent balance.
So can I
Yeah.
ask
Living your
to,
life at sea.
so can I ask to find a purse to match and then see if it's got anything left over in it?
Oh yeah, I mean there's purses along the walls as well, hanging on hooks and things. As you find one that matches and rummage around in it, there is a little bit of coin in there. Let's find out how much.
Okay, go for it. You just promised that.
There's a whole 10 gold pieces in there. And you sort of like take a peek in the other purses, and as you rummage around, I mean, probably through all of them, that's how you accumulate the 10 gold pieces. But you see various other items and things that are left in there, like expensive-looking hand mirrors, and you get the feeling that Astrid does tend to carry around a lot of material wealth and things like that, and so she probably won't miss these 10 gold pieces.
Okay.
So, then Thaddeus, you were going off to actually make use of the bath, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit surreal because you make your way to the bath after Valerie has drawn it, and it's all full of nice, warm, steaming hot water. And it's been renovated a little bit, so it's a little bit more like modernized, this tap that the water comes out of. And there's a lot of those like pipes and things that you've seen throughout the city that like pipe steam and obviously other hot liquids for various purposes in the city. But the bath is just as like ornate and decorative as before, and it's massive, so there's quite a bit of room in there to lounge about in. It's probably a little bit surreal for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if the bath is massive, it's probably smaller than I remember it.
Yeah, definitely, because last time you were here, you were quite a bit younger. But yeah, you can get perfectly clean.
Right. Then I will change into the set of noble clothes that I have from my noble background. I have a set of fine clothes. They've probably been like in my pack stuff there, so they're kind of rumpled, but like they are clearly fine clothes.
Mm-hmm. And you find that when you open the door to the bath, Valerie has actually left you a set of clothes. So you could take those, or you could take the crumpled ones that you have, or you could probably get Valerie to like iron those out a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'll have her do that.
Okay. So you sort of like open the door, summon her, and she. Yeah, she's busy. She's very busy. She seems to be like one of the only people here managing the apartment.
I know. Making dinner, just nice.
But, like, you would have seen her, like, you would have heard Thaddeus' call, and then she rushes out of the room after you leave it, essentially. So, Yeah, and she takes your clothes and then goes off to iron them, comes back maybe 10 minutes later with a nice iron set of noble clothes.
Alright, I'll wear those.
And the hour is getting on, so it gets to be about the time that dinner would be served, and you can see that Valerie is starting to...
I think I'm going to leave my things in Astrid's room.
Okay. I mean, you have your own room as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
In your room, it's not dusty or anything
Yeah.
because like Valerie cleans it. She dusts it every day, but it is exactly as you left it. No one has really touched anything.
I'll just shove my pack into the closet and my armor and stuff and close the door after.
Then you can see as you sort of come back down after setting your stuff up there that... Are you guys lugging around your adventure gear, or do you
I mean,
stash
we're
that somewhere as well?
Yes,
Yeah, I have mine.
but we're
We're in
illusions.
illusion. And we look fabulous.
We look so
So-
fabulous.
No one can see it because they're too busy looking at us.
Okay.
No one can see it anyway because it's under the illusion.
But like, if you're wearing a backpack,
Sure.
you don't have a backpack to begin with.
No,
but
I
I
don't
think
have a
Hunter does. If
I have a
you're
quiver
wearing a
and-
quiver and you lean
and I have
against
a
a
big
chair,
holding,
it's
yeah.
going to like rustle the arrows and things like that.
I already need to sit really far in front because I'm so big.
That's true.
So I'm already like feeling really awkward. But I probably look somewhat normal.
You look fabulous.
You look,
I look
yeah.
wonderful.
You look so
Can we
good.
roll? Wait, can we roll for beauty?
No, I mean with seeming, she doesn't need to. She can
I
like
can
make
make
you
it
look.
look
So we're like,
fabulous.
what's the highest beauty roll you can get?
I mean, it would be like a natural 20 on a charisma check,
Okay, so we're
but
pretty much
basically
off.
that's what you are.
That's what we are because I am really good at my job.
So I pretty much look like Gaston right now.
Yeah.
like a photoshopped
It's
version.
illustrated.
Of
Oh, you know,
Gaston's.
you've seen the live action Beauty and the Beast?
Mhm.
Yeah, the prince when he puts his makeup on at the beginning. That's
Oh.
what you look like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Except
So
somehow
Except
it's Peter
It's
Stone's
Peter
book.
Stone's version of that.
Mhm.
Makeup can do wonders, dear.
Yep.
Peter
Yep.
Stonesbrook has literally
I tell myself
never
that
looked
every
so good. Mara, while you're with Astrid,
Oh
she
my
just
gosh.
is essentially like
Love it.
chattering at you
Okay,
quite
I
a
want to
bit.
ask her to do my hair for me.
Oh yes, of course. I've really only done my own hair for as long as I can remember, but I can try.
Sure.
If you really want a fantastic hairdo, Valerie's the one to ask. But she's probably very busy at this point in time. So yeah, I'll give it a try.
She's got her stuff at home.
She sort of sits you down at her vanity in front of her mirror and brushes your hair for a little bit. And I'd imagine your hair probably isn't. I mean, it's not unkempt, but
It's really long, right?
it's long
It's
and
long and wavy, so it's probably really snarly.
yeah, she has to brush out quite a few knots. And by the time that dinner runs around, she hasn't had time to do much other than brush out the knots. Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried. I really you have so much hair. I'm not quite sure what I can do with it.
It's a lot better than when I came in. Thanks.
She has herself not short hair, but definitely shorter than yours. Probably more like shoulder length or something like that. So she's not quite used to dealing with hair that long. And then it gets to be about that time, and you hear there's a bell that Valerie would ring,
Alright.
and you come down. All of you would come together and see that Valerie has set out a table outside in sort of the summer air, and it's right now set with places for. Let's see, how many of you are there? 4. Then there's Lucavis, Muriel, Astrid. So it is set for 8 people. And there are basically the first course, which is just like a salad set there at the moment. Where would you guys like to position yourselves? Lucavis is already at the head of the table, and Muriel is at the foot.
I'm gonna sit next to Astrid,
Astrid, she hasn't quite sat down yet.
but I'm gonna sit next to her.
She actually, she looks like she's waiting to decide where she wants to sit based on where Thaddeus sits. She's sort of like watching him and like looming behind him.
I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna sit down and motion for Astrid to sit opposite me.
Okay. Which side do you want to sit on though, or like closer to Muriel, closer to Lucavis?
Closer to Lucavis.
So you can sit here, I guess, and we'll put Astrid there. And then Harmony, you want to sit next to Astrid?
Yep.
I'll sit next to Harmony.
Okay. And Mara, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll be by the mom. That's fine.
Sort of down on that side. Then, after everyone is starting to get a little bit settled, there is a ringing bell from the entryway, and Valerie shuffles off for a moment and comes back a moment later, accompanied by a man, a short-looking gnomish man, who is also dressed in noble finery, and he has these large spectacles on him. And Valerie says, announcing the arrival of Pilzip Thimblefoot, here to discuss business with Lucavis Hammerlock over dinner. And she sort of motions for him to come and sit next to Thaddeus. There. And then, once everyone is seated, she goes around the table and basically makes sure that everyone has their napkins in place and says, right, well, now that everyone is seated for dinner, I'll go ahead...
Excuse me.
Yes?
There's one missing?
Master Gavin, yes, he should be down shortly. He's... you've been away for a while, so perhaps you don't know, but he's very into his studies these days, and he takes a little bit of time, but he should be home shortly. And she sort of shuffles off, and Lucavis then looks around the table, and he then says, all right, well, let's eat. And he...
Wait, excuse me, Father.
Yes?
Should we not pray first?
Well, it would seem only fitting that you've been in Adeus studying with the clergy of Isanahen. Why don't you do the honors? We, I must admit, we've fallen to not praying while you've been gone.
Thaddeus bows a little bit. Clasps his hand, starts to lead a prayer.
Okay. Harmony, are you like eyes open, looking around the table?
Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
copycatting whatever I
and
see.
Hunter does exactly what like everyone else is doing.
You see that Astrid has gone like she's bowed her head and she's going along with the prayer like going along with Thaddeus as if she's used to it, but it's been a while. Muriel is sort of like eyes closed in silence. Lucavis is just sort of looking up at the sky, like just at the clouds. Pilzip, who has sat down sort of silently without a word, is also going along with what Thaddeus is saying, but just sort of a little bit impatiently. And you can see, like, as the prayer goes on for a little bit longer than he wanted, he takes his fork and just, like, sneaks a bite of salad.
Does he have to roll sleight of hand for that?
You said that. I mean, I haven't had a chance to say that I keep my eyes open and I'm watching everybody, so I would see him do that.
Mm-hmm.
And can I use subtle spell to cast Mage Hand and smack the fork out of his hand?
Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna do that.
And Thaddeus, your prayer is interrupted by a
It cuts himself short. It says, excuse me, Mr. Thimblefoot, was it?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you, was I being presumptuous? Would you
No,
care
I
to-
apologize.
would you care to contribute one to Erithus?
He sort of like gives you a look for a second and says, certainly. And he then sort of falteringly begins to lead a brief prayer to Arathis.
Erithus, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
I'm gonna look over at Thaddy and just be like.
Now he's
And yeah, I don't know. You might have even seen the spectral hand disappearing after it smacked the fork down, and you heard the clatter as well. It's pretty clear it's Harmony's doing it.
You've seen me cast that spell before.
Hunter's like rolls his eyes like normal.
Pilzip keeps his prayer. This isn't to clarify. You guys have heard of Zilpip Thimblefoot, who is the founder of Thimblefoot Enterprises.
Ooh.
This is Pilzip, not Zilpip.
Right.
Pickle?
Not confused
Yeah.
at all.
We'll have an easy time keeping those apart.
But he keeps his prayer relatively short, and then sort of closes it and begins to dig into his salad.
With a new fork.
I mean, he like picks the fork up off the ground, wipes it
Okay.
off with a napkin. Actually, Valerie is
20
probably
second
on
rule.
top of that. She
Yeah.
probably got him a new fork while he was finishing praying.
Yeah.
So, she's very good.
Best use of a sorcery point ever.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
And then Lucavis sort of starts up a conversation and says, Pilzip, it's wonderful of you to join us for dinner this evening. As you can see, my son Thaddeus is home from his study abroad in Aedeus. Pilzip sort of gives you a look and says, Ah, I see. From Aedeus. Excellent. What was that like?
It was instructive. It was enlightening, I suppose we know the word for it. I'm surely not as glamorous as the lifestyle you're used to here in Ferendel. We led a very solemn and studious life. Little of the fripperies and comforts you have here.
I see. Intriguing. I suppose they don't have many Thimblefoot inventions over there at this point in time?
Not a one.
Well, they will someday. We're expanding, ever expanding. Perhaps I haven't introduced myself. I'm Pilzip Thimblefoot, and he reaches over to shake your hand.
That is shit.
You've probably heard of my brother Zilpip. He's the genius. I'm in charge of finances for Thimblefoot Enterprises.
I wondered if you were related.
Yes, well, I mean, the last name alone. And he sort of looks around at the rest of the table, looking who else is there. And he says, it just sort of gives the rest of you a nod. And Lucavis then picks up and says, but of course, I've forgotten my manners. These are...
Yes, I should introduce my own retinue.
yes, please do.
That I've been traveling with. This is Hunter, Mara, Harmony.
Yes, I met them all briefly, but he's talking to Pilzip at this point. He says, I met them all briefly just moments before you did in the study when I came home. But of course I had preparations to do, so we couldn't speak at length. Where have you gathered such companions, Thaddeus?
I met them on the road. We have been working together at common purposes for some time now.
I see. And so were they on the ship with you that sailed you across the Heart Lake?
They were.
I must admit, I was expecting you several days earlier based on when the requisition for that charter came.
Harmony kind of chokes on her
And-
salad a little bit.
Thaddeus just smiled and said, "You had business to attend to before the dinner, and so did I."
That is understandable. It's been some time since you were here, so. He, after that, falls a little bit silent. Pilzip, on the other hand, is sort of like studying the three of you across the table. I'm trying to think who he'd probably be most interested in. And I think it'd probably be Mara, because you look probably the most
Normal.
normal. Yeah. And he says,
My finery. At least I'm not
and your name was-
sparkling and glowing.
Mara, did you
He's
introduce your
jealous.
last name as well?
No, I didn't. Last name.
Mara, was it?
Sparkle.
Yes.
You must tell me, where are you from?
I'm from everywhere.
Everywhere. Intriguing. A traveler.
Yes. I grew up on a ship with my grandfather.
So a sailor, then, by trade.
Mhm.
Intriguing. Now, what sort of, just out of curiosity, what sort of, you've had a chance to see Thimblefoot inventions since you've come to the city.
Yes.
Are there any that you've seen that you think would be useful to a sailor? We're always looking to expand our line, as I mentioned.
Let's see. Well, with the little
What was that?
room that expanded to be one of his inventions.
Oh,
No, that was-
no,
No,
that
that
was
was
a
Hellions.
spell.
Hellions adventure. The wizard who had that tower.
Oh.
What was that device on your wrist, Father? That seemed like it would be of some interest to sailors.
Ah, yes, this. It's a common wristwatch. They're very popular amongst the...
Irish.
It is an Irish wristwatch. No, they're very popular amongst the nobles
Sorry.
these days. You can, at a glance, tell what time of the day it is. For example, now it is about 7 p.m.
That would be useful on a
The
boat. wouldn't
7th hour of
Very
the
useful.
afternoon.
Can
Yes.
we set it to chime bells?
I would imagine so. What would you say, Zilpip? And he sort of glances over at Zilpip. Or not Zilpip, Pilzip. And Pilzip says, yes, I mean, of course. Nothing is beyond the reach of my incredible brother, Zilpip Thimblefoot. And all of you can go ahead and roll insight checks.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't matter what we roll. Yeah, my plan isn't working anymore.
14.
12.
12.
18.
6.
Okay, so Hunter and Mara. Mara, especially, you're watching him a little bit closely. Thaddeus' eyes are probably on.
Thaddeus and I are talking about why anyone would possibly need to know what time of day it is.
Yeah. Like, what is the point?
I mean, Harmony was like,
Like, look
I
at the
can
sun.
tell that by looking at the sun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys see this little twinge of, like, resentment as he praises his brother. But it's quickly gone. And at this point, there's other idle chit-chat. Astrid is just essentially spending all of her time fawning over Harmony and leaping in with stories about Thaddeus when he was younger whenever she has a chance.
And I'll probably be casting some minor illusions on the table to, like,
Oh, do you
fill
do
in
that?
her- Yeah, here and there.
Pilzip is very intrigued by that. He sort of leans across the table, like he stands up to his full height, realizes it's not enough, stands on his chair, gets a little bit of an angle, and like looks down at it. Now that is incredible.
I think it'll be another, like, series of Fatty as cute animals.
Oh yeah?
Oh boy.
I need to check something.
So it's like Teddy Bear Thaddeus.
Do gnomes get, am I remembering this correctly, do they have minor illusion as a cantrip by a racial trait?
I don't know.
Maybe some. I don't know if all of them do.
I need to look this up.
It's a race.
Well, it's not important. He'll just say, yes, some gnomes are rather skilled with magical...
Forest gnomes do.
Forest gnomes do? Well, he's a rock gnome. He says, come on, boys. Some of my gnome brethren are very talented with illusion magics and can produce such things just as a natural trait of their racial ability. But it's been quite a bit of time since I saw magic within the city, if I'm honest.
Yes, we learned in the days, of course, that magic does not be wielded by mortals, that it is the province of the gods. But I had to make an exception when it comes to Harmony. She's been quite a boon companion.
Lucavis also seems interested in the minor illusions, and he says to Harmony, is just out of curiosity, if you've been such a staunch companion to Thaddeus here, you must have other magical talents at your disposal. You must know how rare of a gift that is these days.
Yes, it's a rare gift, and unfortunately I'm not as well-versed as people in the past might have been.
Still, I'd be interested in seeing some of what you can do later
Really,
on if you
parlor
have the
tricks
time.
like this are all I can manage.
Well, that is disappointing, and you do see sort of a genuine look of disappointment in his eyes. I mean, you're good enough that, like, your passive deception would probably be there.
That's fair.
And he's not, like, specifically doubting you at this point either, so there's no reason to. Then Valerie, at this point, seeing most of you have picked your way through the salad or consumed it entirely by this point, Valerie comes out and sort of takes the plates for the salads away, and then brings out plate by plate a variety of different meats. So there's like fowl, there's pork, there's beef, there's whatever you want, prepared in several different styles, and she sort of lays them out across the table. And Muriel begins sort of like starting to pass and just like passing them around so you can all take what you want. At this point, there's another ring of the bell by the door, and Valerie sort of looks towards the door quizzically and looks over at Lucavis. And Lucavis goes, just gives her a little bit of a, I don't know, I'm not expecting anyone. And she rushes off towards the door and comes back probably like 2 minutes later with a woman, very clearly elven by the point of the ears and sort of the slant of the eyes. Throughout Ferndale, you've seen a variety of half-elves. Like, half-elves are pretty common here, but I don't think you've seen a full elf in Ferndale. She has this long blonde hair that sort of just hangs loosely over her shoulders, and she has these very misty blue eyes. And she wears these garments that are, they all end in like beady dangles and things like that, and they're all these bright summery colors. Valerie announces her and says, announcing the presence of Leah Moonbrook, the, hold on, I have to double check my note here. Leah Moonbrook, the Assembly Master of Divination, for dinner with the House Hammerlock, and sort of shuffles her down to a seat next to Pillzip.
I would like to make a perception check.
Okay.
To see if this is really an elf or if there's an illusion going on.
Okay, yeah, do it.
I was going to say I'd like to make an insight check to read her body language.
Like her demeanor as she comes
Yeah,
in?
demeanor.
Sure. Go ahead and do that too.
13.
6! I'm doing really well.
As far as you can tell, without like getting up and physically like
Right. trying
to prod her and like touch her ears and things like that, she has all the appearance of an elf.
Okay. I'm going to ask her, greetings, Miss Moonbrook.
Yes.
Is there any, would you care for a plate?
Yes, I would enjoy some food if there is extra. And she sort of like looks around, and Valerie is already on top of it.
And Valerie, that is like,
No,
shake his
okay,
head,
yeah,
and
Valerie.
prepare her a plate. And prepare her a plate.
So you are getting her a plate?
Yes.
Okay, so you like hop up and get one? Okay, because there wasn't one set here.
Yeah, so I'm going to set it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, probably have to rush back to the kitchen and get it, but that's fine.
Can I insight check Thaddeus?
Is he going to think for elves?
Yeah,
This is
you can do that.
weird behavior. He's never gone out of his way to serve us dinner.
Yeah, I mean, you can insight check him. Thaddeus, you don't have to make...
Yeah.
I'll just let you sort of like reveal what
Sure.
you want based on her role.
10.
You're sure acting weird.
He's acting
Strange
weird.
behavior.
Yeah.
Can I message Thaddeus?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why are you acting so weird?
Why are you whispering a message?
I can respond to message, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have to test something. So it'll only take a minute.
So you rush off to get a plate. Meanwhile, Lucavis sort of like, he's puzzled by this because he wasn't expecting her. He looks across the table and says, Leah, Miss Moonbrook, I must admit, though it's not an unwelcome intrusion, since a great master of the Assembly of Eight is always welcome at the table of House Hammerlock. I must inquire, why are you here? What is your business? And Leah sort of glances back across the table at Lucavis and says, I just felt as if destiny was drawing me here today. And Lucavis, like, literally gawks at that. Like, but he's formal and receiving, as any true noble would be. And he just sort of nods and says, excellent, well, you're welcome, and my son Thaddeus will be bringing you a plate, I'm sure. And he looks off for Thaddeus, which is...
I'm probably coming back.
Yeah, running back.
So what I want to do is walk over to Leah's place
Mhm.
and put it and brush up against her.
Okay.
Like testing for illusion, basically.
Yeah. Where you brush up against her, like where you would perceive her arm, is where you actually brush up against her. So it does seem as if she is physical and not an illusion here.
Okay.
And she says, "Thank you. You said your name was Thaddeus?
Yes, that is Hammerlock, and yours is Leah Moonbrook.
That's correct.
An auspicious name. Are you familiar with the 8?
I'm a member of the Assembly of 8.
No. Not those 8.
Oh, yes. Wow. And you're still wearing a holy symbol, right?
Yeah. I
Which
think-
probably for the first time sort of like leans out from under your collar, and she sort of catches a glimpse of it. A fellow worshipper of one of the moon goddesses, I see.
That's right.
Sanahan. That is a rare choice. Yes, I do pay homage to Sehanine herself, though perhaps not as devoutly as some.
Then we are doubly honored to have you under our roof. That is, we'll sit back in the chair.
She gives you a very, very warm smile. Yeah, and food starts to go around. Leah doesn't take any of the meat. She sort of like takes there's like still a salad bowl on the table, and she takes that and dishes it up for herself. But yeah, then conversations start to break out across the table. Is there anyone you'd like to talk to? I've got all my people there now, so I don't need to lead anymore.
I've been talking a lot. I'll let you guys do something.
Hmm.
If Hunter dares.
He doesn't want to dare. The only person he's interested in talking about is to Pilzip. And he kind of wants to prod the whole, like, you know, what is your great brother doing right now type of thing.
The other
It
thing
may- it
I
may sort of
forgot
like-
to mention is that Gavin does come down
Oh, okay.
around
Yeah,
this
well,
time, very late, and he's brings a plate for himself from the kitchen, and then just reaches across the table and begins to load up some of the meat and things like that onto his plate. So what were you saying?
So I would look over to Pilzip and be like, so what are your great brother's current plans right now?
Yes. Well, much of that is confidential, as you'd expect, of course. But we're currently working on improvements to the self-powered carriages that drive throughout the city. I'm sure you've seen them.
The trains?
Yeah, that's a big project as well. Our first railroad to Ravenmore is nearly complete, which is a modern wonder in and of itself. It makes the travel in a little over 2 days.
Wow.
Yes, we met someone working on that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So you came from that direction. You mentioned you were travelers, but you didn't say where you came from. You came from the
What was his
Ravenmore
name?
direction?
The gnome that we came across. Did we take his name?
Yeah, I think it'll be in my notes.
It's someone.
Okay.
There's another person you know who was working on
I
the
know
railroads as
who you're
well.
talking about, but I don't want to mention that.
Yep.
That'll zone in on exactly where we came from. So
Okay.
we're not very well liked from that place. Maybe not anymore. I don't know. Maybe.
It was after Redwater.
Maybe they forgot about us.
He says, well, if you ever get the opportunity, it should be a fantastic trip. It's very short compared to the travels you probably endured on the way here.
I see. And then I would be curious to ask about automatons as well. So I would want to field a question.
Yes, well, that is complicated because any sort of, well, to put it one way, artificial intelligence that reflects a human-like disposition is beyond our capabilities at this point in time.
Is there any alcohol at the table?
Oh yes.
So
there's wine.
I would offer to like pour him drinks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
grateful. He
Yeah,
takes,
so I would be like, oh, can I pour you a drink? And, you know, and then kind of keep the conversation going, see if I can kind of, like, leak some information or something.
Ply him with alcohol.
Yes,
He
exactly.
does look very beautiful right now.
I am, like, fabulous. like,
throughout-
a mix between, like, Lord Farquaad and Gaston. Like,
yeah, go ahead and make a charisma check at advantage for
Okay,
your
I will do that.
appearance. Especially since-
natural 20.
Yeah.
No way. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and a 7.
yeah, so you and he sort of carry on this conversation.
Like, the second I, like, handed him glass, it's, like
Sparkles
sparkles
everywhere.
and, like, glitters, like, oozing out.
I could be like prestidigitationing like glitter on his
Like the
skin.
hair, like she does that, like the hair starts like waving, like blowing,
It's blowing
Oh, like
in
the
the
dust
wind.
can't drip from under the table.
like a white breeze. They're like chest hairs.
Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah.
He's after a couple glasses of wine and like your continued interest, he does start to get a little bit loose-lipped, and he says two things. One thing he continuously says is, well, if you want to know about the true great aspect of Thimblefoot, it's incredible prosperity. You can ask anyone. We're the most profitable company in all of Freydin, and it all comes down to the finances, that's what I'm responsible for. And he's just very boastful. So that's one thing.
So okay.
The thing he lets slip is that there is a secret project which he is in charge of. And Zilpip doesn't have any part of it, and it's his project, and it is going to make
Like
Thimblefoot
revolutionary or something. Yeah.
and Farendel great.
Okay. I would also want to ask him about the railway and what the interest point of Ravenmoor is specifically.
Well, Ravenmoor is just the far eastern or the far western stop. There's not much beyond it. The eventual goal is to connect all of the towns and cities through railroads, but Ravenmoor is the largest city on that side of the continent. So if you connect a railway to there and set frequent stops throughout, you can get to most places rather quickly.
Yeah.
And this conversation goes on for quite a while.
And I would try and pry a little bit more as he gets more intoxicated about the secret project, because he's very excited about it.
That is all you will get out of it. But you can see he's very excited about it. And he sort of takes that opportunity after a certain point to turn to Lucavis and say, actually, it's for this special project, Lucavis, that I'm hoping to receive financial backing from you once you're sworn into dukeship. And then they begin a business conversation.
That's right. I completely forgot to congratulate you, Father, on your upcoming promotion.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
which
you,
one?
my son. It's really a promotion for the family, you know. It's as much your promotion as it is mine. I missed one.
The camera.
Yeah, the camera has to see
Yeah,
this.
the camera has to do that.
Can the camera see this?
What's going on there? Let me check.
Down. Oh.
Well, yep, there we go. Where are we looking here?
The top. Of the page.
very top.
Go down a little bit. Oh, that's up.
Stop bumping.
All right, hang on.
Use that camera.
Give
I'll
just-
fix
let
that
me
one.
see.
You do that. Sorry, bad camera.
Glimmer hunter. There he is. Looking good.
Do this instead, maybe. Is that right?
Close enough.
Okay.
Sorry. I didn't mean for this to be
It was-
such a
it
huge
was
distraction.
so
beautiful. What like a god.
I was inspired.
Natural 20. All the things to critically roll for.
Sorry.
Yeah, so he basically just goes on about how it's as much a promotion for the family, and the entire family has worked hard to get where you are. Yes, and
when will the ceremony be?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I do hope you're sticking around, because it shouldn't be more than a few days now. And he sort of pulls out a pocketbook that has meetings and things written. It's an agenda book, and so he flips through it. Yes, we're down to the 2-day mark, so it'll only be 2 days from now. That evening. So
So Hunter is kind of curious at what time it is, and if it's like turning the dusk soon.
it's getting into the summer months of the year.
Okay.
So it
For our
stays.
Skype call.
Yeah, it stays light later.
Okay.
So you're still good on time.
Okay.
But it's like starting to get a little bit dark.
Like I can perceive right now that we still have time before we have to leave. But
Yeah. I mean, you're eating outside,
get
so
through
dinner.
Oh, we're eating outside.
Yeah,
I thought we were
dinner-
eating in a room. Okay.
No, they set up a table
Oh,
outside
okay,
for
okay.
you in the gardens that Muriel tends. So there's
Got it,
like
got it,
flowers
got
and things like that. It's very scenic, and you sort of have it's on like a terrace too, so it overlooks the city a little bit. And you could sort of see the bustle of the city beyond the gardens. It's very pretty. Yes. So then after that, Lucavis and Pilzip sort of launch into a business discussion.
Is it a quiet conversation, or can we like hear it?
Well,
The
they're
way-
talking over Thaddeus,
Yeah.
so it would have
Yeah.
to be
Okay,
someone
alright,
there.
alright.
It's not whispered or anything like that, and they don't get into any specifics. It's just like both of them are saying yes. It's very like long-winded business discussion where it's like yes, I'd be very happy to support you, and I look forward to working with you, and blah 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 blah. It goes on for a
Okay,
long time.
alright.
Anyone else want to have a conversation?
Yeah,
Who do you want to talk with?
I want to talk to Astrid. My new best friend.
Yeah, she's been like talking at you this entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, I assume she's been talking a lot about Thaddeus.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask her about herself.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I'm learning a lot about nobles. I'm not one. I grew up in a very, very, very small community. And, well, Thaddy told me about arranged marriages and betrothal. And that kind of sounds like it sucks.
Yes, that is a thing that happens.
Is it a thing that happened to you too?
Well, I'm not married yet, but
But you're betrothed?
no, not per se at this point in time. Though I would assume it's probably in the cards. Father and mother will pick out someone who is very suitable, I'm sure.
Are you okay with that? I mean, that sounds like it kind of sucks.
Well, he'll probably be charming, and he'll be the younger son of another noble family. And I know several of the other noble families, and most of them are fine people.
Doesn't really answer my question, though, does it?
She sort of leans over to you and just sort of says quietly, "Nothing about the noble life is ideal. But to an extent, we have to live with it."
I'm gonna lean over her. To
And
her.
then she adds on at the end, "I'm lucky to have Thaddeus, because he's much better equipped to deal with the pressures and problems that come along with noble life than I am." And she leans back to her chair.
I'm gonna look at her and I'm gonna use the message cantrip so that only she can hear it, and say,
She looks very surprised. She
And
like looks around.
you don't have to be trapped in this life if you don't want to. If you want an out, all you have to do is nod your head and I can help you.
She turns her head to the side, not a nod, but just to the side, and like looks at you, and then takes a bite and keeps eating.
I'll just leave it at that.
And after a few minutes, she does get back to herself and like start pestering you again. But she spends a few minutes in silence.
And I'll pretend like I didn't say it.
Okay.
So that, keep the
Mhm.
illusion.
What's the elf doing?
Ah, yes. Leah Moonbrook is for the most part keeping to herself, and part of that is because of where she's situated at the table. Gavin is not talking. He's like head down eating. He looks very sullen. And occasionally, the only thing that Gavin really does is sort of like glance over at Thaddeus and glare. That's about it. And then Philzip is obviously involved in a conversation with Lucavis.
Mm-hmm.
So Leah is probably like looking across the table at the three of you
Mm-hmm.
and sort of just looking as she sort of just eats her salad. And it just sort of like keeps quiet for the most part.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask Pilzip, given that they're having this conversation over me.
Mhm.
Would you prefer to switch seats?
Ah, would you mind? It would make this much more convenient.
Not at all. Because that way I can talk to Leah as well as the other people around here.
Yeah, he then scoots back his chair and we'll just switch you around. Easy enough.
You're sitting on him. Oh, okay.
So I think Mara would like to ask his mom all about the garden to maintain a convivial conversation, and seeing that she hasn't seen many of these kind of plants, ask her about them.
Okay.
And butter her up.
Speaking of Muriel, you do notice that she's sort of the only one at the table who Gavin really talks to at all. Like, she'll say brief things to Gavin, like, how are your studies going? And he'll give brief responses like, they're going very well. Don't worry about it, Mother. I'm learning everything I need to know. And then, but his responses back to her are very short and terse, and she's just trying to engage him in conversation, but he's not really responding all that much, but more than to anyone else at the table. When you ask her about flowers, she opens up quite a bit and says, yes, the flowers, well, as I told Thaddeus earlier, some of them are even from as far flung away as Adeus. I have all kinds of varieties of flowers here from all across the continent, as well as other plants. I have a small vegetable garden. Of course, we buy most of our vegetables and things from the market. I don't have a big enough garden to sustain us, but it's fun nonetheless.
Not here, but back home.
Well, yes, back home. Oh, you should see my gardens back home. We have entire vineyards, which I tend to quite a bit of. Not entirely by myself, but to some degree.
I recognize a few of the tropical plants, but not very many of the local varieties.
Yes, the tropical ones are hard to keep alive in this climate, but they do thrive in the summer. And there are quite a few tropical plants that actually look like they're doing really well right now. And she asks you, if you've seen a lot of tropical plants, you must be from somewhere northward? Perhaps an island out in the sea?
I've spent a good deal of time in a lot of different areas, a lot of different islands.
Yes, I think that's right. You mentioned that.
Maybe on my next journey, if I'll find one, a rare one that you don't have for your collection.
She beams at that. I would absolutely love if you could bring me back one of those at some point in time. That would be incredible.
Okay.
Quest received. Quest accepted.
Fetch quest.
Yep.
Since you are talking to Muriel, you can also make an insight check.
Possible.
Okay. So 12.
12. You notice that she glances at Leah quite a bit. But you're not quite sure what the intent of the glances are. They're just sort of like furtive glances where she'll just look down the table at her. You notice it happens with some frequency.
I think after the fills up conversation, Hunter would start studying Leah as well.
It sort of ends up as a stare down because she's like looking across the table at you.
Yeah.
Just these like misty blue eyes just like looking at you.
Yeah, okay.
Neither of you saying anything.
Well, no, and then I want to ask you, like, I know you said that divinity brought you here, but what does that mean?
Well.
Not divinity.
Or
divination.
Oh, sorry.
Divinity.
Destiny.
Or destiny.
Divinity
One of those
is
D
candy.
words.
Is what? Of candy.
She says, yes, I'm a practitioner of divination magic. It's a school of magic that has to do with seeing certain aspects of the future, finding and following the threads of fate, all kinds of detection.
Okay.
It's a lesser practiced, and in fact, I don't know anyone else who practices it these days at all.
So do you know the deeper meaning of why you came to here?
She smiles a little bit. I have an inkling.
I feel like I'm really used to this because of Radiance.
She has a sort of different disposition than Radiance does about it, though, because Radiance definitely lets you know when she knows something. Leah looks like she internalizes a bit more.
So when she says that, and we're still having a conversation, I'm gonna like do the thing where I'm like going like this, and I'm looking at Philzip, and like is it because of him, like with my body language?
She looks over at
Like-
Philzip and sort of just like subtly shakes her head no, and
Okay.
then looks at Thaddeus, Harmony, Mara, and Hunter,
Yeah.
and just gives a little bit of a head nod.
Oh.
Am I
Interesting.
listening to this
Yeah,
conversation?
Thaddeus, like, I just rolled a wisdom check, and I was like, Thaddeus is like, wait a second. Divination magic, is that the sort of magic that lets you see, for instance, things that aren't really there?
Precisely. Yes, that is one part of it. Or seeing things from a far distance when you're not present.
That must come in very handy.
It's incredibly handy.
That's Harmony.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the sort of magic that would give you warnings and forebodings when bad things are about to happen and help you avoid those dangers.
But that's not why you're here tonight, I'm sure.
No, of course not. And she gives a smile to the whole table.
Harmony's like
Is
very
that why
focused on
she's
her
here?
dinner.
And then we're rolling insight checks. Okay. Yeah.
10 for me.
11.
Natural 20!
You're sure that that's why she's here.
I know. So Harmony's like, don't give anything away.
Yeah, Thaddeus, like,
I
her
don't
answer is
hear.
convincing enough. It could be that, like,
Uh-huh.
she's actually, like, and she has this airy disposition as well, so it's really hard to tell whether
Yeah.
her answer was
So
serious or not.
Hunter. So, hang on.
What did Hunter get on the insight?
I got an 11. So
Yeah, you're probably saying this Thaddeus, not quite.
I will message her.
Okay.
And say, I don't know if you know of Seal Shop, but I'm going there after dinner. If you want to meet us there, we can talk in private.
And her response is, I was hoping to come with you anyways.
Great. Great. And I'll just look at Hunter and be like,
and Hunter doesn't sweat, but he sweats for the first time.
The illusion is very convincing.
A screw, like, is falling out.
Yeah. Like one of his hairs, like twang.
are you kidding?
Well, it was perfect.
My illusion magic is perfect.
And then it goes back down. It was perfect.
What do you think rhinestones would fall out?
So, and then, so since you do that, Hunter will like look at you and be like, "Don't we have a meeting that we have to get to soon? Don't we?"
After dinner?
Okay.
Speaking of which, about this time, Valerie starts to come out and collect plates from the main course. She can carry like a ton of plates at a time. Like if you've seen really good waiters and waitresses carry a bunch of plates, it's like 10 times that. She's really good.
I'm not going to play a prank. I'm not going to play a prank. I'm not going to
We only hire the best.
be mischievous.
Then she heads off with those and then comes back moments later with plates with desserts on them. So there's a variety of cookies. There's she brings out a cake. There's a couple pies, fruit pies. So and Muriel chimes in. These fruit pies are actually the apples and cherries that are used in these fruit pies. I grew them.
Oh crap! Now Hunter like has to eat something. He's been just doing this as much as he can to get it tomorrow.
And when the desserts come out, Gavin stands up,
No, thank you.
turns to Lucavis and says,
That's true.
Father, I'm going to go back to my studies now. And gives a little bow to the rest of the table.
Kevin, you haven't said word one to me since you got here.
He turns to you and says, welcome home, Thaddeus. And then he walks away.
Can I suggest that he stay and eat dessert with us?
You can. Do you want to do so?
Yeah.
Roll out magic, I guess.
Let me pull out a step watch.
No.
We're safe. You really want it to happen, don't you?
I always want magic.
I always do too. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Me too.
More
It's our
floats,
guilty
more
pleasure, I
floats.
think.
More fun. I'll say, oh, Gavin, nice. I really think
What is your DC?
it's a good idea for you to stay here. 17.
17, and it is wisdom.
I haven't cast Suggestion in so long.
It is wisdom.
Yes.
He has a 22.
Holy shit.
I rolled an 18 on the dice. He looks at you and says, I have a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
And who are you? Never mind, I don't care. And
Do
he
they
turns
know
around
that
and
there's a
walks
spell being cast on them? If
Yeah.
they resist
away.
No, there's some spells where you do, but that's not one.
What are the components for that one, though?
I think it's just verbal.
Verbal and material.
Oh, it's material?
Okay, so you would have to have like your staff under the table,
Mhm.
but that's no problem because it's under an illusion anyways.
Mhm.
Um,
On a failed save, it pursues the course of action you described. No, that's not it. No, it doesn't say anything about it knowing.
Right. It's
Yeah.
there's to get
Okay.
to them.
Cool.
So his eyes narrow, and he says, "Who are you again, anyways? Never mind, I don't care." And he walks away. So Gavin's.
Classic Gavin.
I hope I'm playing Gavin as much of a jerk as you pictured him, Nick.
I'll just look at Thaddeus and shrug. Like, I
Thad-
tried.
Thaddeus turns to Muriel and says, "She seems to have taken a turn for the worse since I remember him."
There's an audible sigh, and you can see her body relaxes a little bit, or like not relaxes isn't the right word. Like she sinks back in her chair a little bit. There we go. She says, "Yes, well, I don't know. He's always been, of course, the academic type like his father. You know that much.
Yes, I remember.
But he's really leaned into his studies lately, and he doesn't like to do anything else, it seems. He just spends most of his time either cooped up in his room or following Lucavis around on diplomatic jaunts to the castle and things like that."
I think he speaks poorly of him that doesn't have more time for his family. But that's just me.
I too wish he'd spend a little bit more time. Go ahead and roll an insight check as well. And depending on what you get, you might notice something.
Who am I inciting here?
Your mother?
Depending on what you get, you might. Well, I guess it's more of a perception check. I think. So you're just focusing on your mother,
Yeah.
and you don't notice anything beyond her and what she says and does.
Well, I think this could be our cue to get out of here.
All right. We have a
We have a meeting.
meeting.
Lucavis sort of interrupts his conversation with Pilzip and says across the table to Thaddeus, "Will you be staying here with us, or what are your
For
plans?"
tonight, at least, I promised after that I would.
Are
Excellent.
you staying or are
Excellent.
you coming with us?
Do I need to come with you?
You don't have to.
No.
You can stay here if you want.
I'll stay here.
Okay.
My bodyguard Mara will be staying as well.
Excellent. This dinner has been, especially since I had business to discuss with Pilzip, it hasn't been enough time to catch up, and I would like to speak with you. And so he seems relieved that you're staying, and if you guys are getting up, Leah also stands up and sort of nods to Lucavis, gives a little bow, or a little curtsy, gives Muriel a little curtsy, gives Thaddeus a little curtsy, gives Astrid a little curtsy, each individual, gives Pilzip a nod, and then says, "I think I'll be taking my leave as well. I can feel the pull of destiny in another direction." And Lucavis just like shakes his head but says, "Yes, excellent. You're welcome anytime," with a jovial smile that is clearly fake.
I'm going to give my most grandiose curtsy as I get up from the table and say, "It has been simply marvelous to meet the family of our most honored companion. We shall be back again on the morrow. Farewell."
And then Hunter will make a deep, deep bow. Indubitably.
Harmony, roll a charisma check at advantage. Thaddeus, do you chuckle a little bit?
Yeah, that would be a charisma check, 19.
Okay. It looks like Lucavis actually is impressed with the way you just handled yourself. You can't pick up on that you're mocking him. Muriel as well seems very impressed. Astrid just like jaw down, like, where did you learn to speak so well at such a young age?
Thaddeus whispers that I've been a good influence.
Really?
And I'm going to hook my arm into Hunter's arm like this. Your arm isn't that much thicker than when I made your illusion.
Oh, okay. As long as you're sure.
I wouldn't
All right.
I wouldn't have made your
All right,
illusion
then
obvious.
if it was that, then I would, play a part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll like hook my arm and we'll walk out like
Jaunt out of there.
like peacocks.
Astrid looks down the table at Mara and says, "Mara, are you not going to go with your sister?"
Well, I think they're fine. I'd rather stay here and get back into my own clothes where I'm more comfortable, if you don't mind.
You're welcome to hold on to my dress until another day. I'm sure since Thaddeus is going to be staying here tonight, we'll be seeing you again. It's no problem.
Okay. That sounds fine, but I would like to relax a little while.
Okay, so you do want to stay here?
Mhm.
Okay, she seems a little bit put off that you're letting your little sister go without her, but yeah, it's fine. You can do that.
As we leave, I'm going to send another message to Astrid. And I'm going to say, if you wish to taste freedom, come to Ciel's shop on the second level? Second level?
Third, I
Third
believe.
level? Come to Ciel's shop on the third level. And I will show you what freedom tastes like.
And she tilts her head to the side, very confused, but okay.
That's all.
She just, yeah, as you're leaving, her head is just still tilted to the side watching you.
That's all.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave.
Then yeah, by the time dessert is being cleaned up by Valerie, Lucavis and Pilzip go to adjourn to Lucavis's study. And Pilzip says to you, since I guess you're the only one who's still there, yes, it was very nice to meet you, Thaddeus, and I do hope we can speak more, perhaps at your father's gala that is coming up.
Yes, I hope to see you. And will your brother be there as well?
He rolls his eyes. Yes, Zilpip will be there as well. We'll be there together.
I would be honored if you could make an introduction.
I'm more than happy to, of course. For a Hammerlock, anything. And he says that loudly so that Lucavis can hear it. Good. And then dinner sort of breaks apart.
Indubitably.
So would now be a good time to go and meet Alyssa
Nailed it.
to give her the money? Since we have
Yeah,
a
if you want to
break.
sneak away, go ahead and roll a stealth check.
Okay.
Wait, why did you want to stay if you're going to sneak away? You could have just gone with them.
I don't think she wants us to.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's not very good. 8.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know if I really need to be stealthy. I could just say I'm
You're like
going
not
onto
used to
the
these
ground
clothes.
and
Yeah,
look at the plants.
I
a
mean,
little
and
more.
that gets you away from most people.
Yeah.
So the only one who sees you go and approaches you as you go in the gardens is Valerie.
Of course. I knew.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
And
See, I don't
Valerie,
know. So it's just bad.
Here.
That's a green one.
Valerie catches up with
Look,
you
you
as
rolled
you're-
another 4.
Your dice are so cursed. Valerie catches up with you as you're sort of approaching the gate and says, "Were you not going to stay here?"
I'll be back later.
I see. Well, you do have something to deliver, I assume.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like me to take?
Well, no. I just like to be well apprised of where everyone is coming and going from this mansion.
Okay.
That's all. And she,
Will you let me in later?
of course.
Okay.
But if you're a true member of the Sisterhood, I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Man.
She's just getting you back for the knapsack thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Karma.
So you sneak off, and you make your way down to the first layer of the city. You're accosted a little bit by some thugs, but you know that if you flash your Sisterhood badge, they'll let you pass because they know not to mess with the Thieves Guilds. And you make your way down to that same house where my other rogue character, what was her name?
Alyssa? Yeah.
Alyssa.
Not Vanessa, not Valerie, Alyssa.
Alyssa.
Where Alyssa stays most of the time. And you manage to get in with Thieves' Cant. They now recognize your face. As you come in, you get the impression that the proprietor sort of keeps this mental log of people he's seen and let in before. And when he slides open like the slit on the door and sees who it is, he doesn't ask for like a passphrase or anything like that. He just lets you in. And ushers you to the trapdoor that leads down into the basement area. And Alyssa's not there immediately, but one of the other people who is there, one of the other women who's there, rushes off and brings Alyssa back out within a few moments. And Alyssa sort of motions you to a seat next to a fireplace that I wouldn't say is roaring, but it's sort of like simmering, you know?
Okay.
I take it the fact that you're here means that you received payment for the job?
Yes, he was pleased with the book after inspecting it, but he's not such a pleasant fellow.
I'm going to give you a little bit of tip about working in this line of business. Most of the people we deal with are not pleasant fellows. But if they pay, then it doesn't matter now, does it?
He did pay.
And she sort of holds out her hand.
Okay. Do I take up my cut first?
Have you taken it out already?
No.
No, okay. Well, it's up to you if you want to take your cut out now or hand it to her and let her divvy it out.
I'll let her divvy it out. So
She
trusts me more.
sort of weighs it, jingles it a bit. Like 1,000 gold pieces is a lot to pour out on a table. So she brings out like a tub and pours it into that, and then begins to. She has this like little clicker device that she clicks for each gold piece she counts, and she counts it 3 times, each time adding up to 1,000, taking several minutes before she's satisfied, and then she begins to do the same to count out your price, which was 250, I believe. Right, well, the rest of this will go to the Sisterhood, but this is your cut for a job well done.
Thank you very much.
Is this also a Thumbfoot Enterprises device?
Yes, it is. And it's just a simple device. Like, each time you click it, the number displays on it, and it goes up by 1. That's all there is to it. When she finishes that, she says, she puts the coins back in the purse, and you take your cut as well. And she says to you, "There's one other matter that I need to discuss with you.
All
I
right.
don't have another job for you at the moment per se, but you were in here yesterday, I think it was, with that nobleman, Hammerlock, who you've been keeping tabs on.
Right.
It might be good for you to stay with them for a little bit longer.
That's not a problem.
We did some reconnaissance. Actually, I should have some music at this point now that we're out of the gym. We did some investigating to see if we could find the location of that gem he was searching for, the one from the temple. It turns out, I hesitate to say too much of this, but you know the basic tenets of our society prohibit stealing large bounties for your own gain, correct?
Correct.
Of course, small change from your average mark is fair game. You know this. But anything as large as that diamond, well, a significant cut has to go back to the Sisterhood.
Okay.
What we found out was that it was stolen by one of our own, without a requisition. No request was put in. No payments were exchanged. It was merely stolen. And it wasn't put out to be fenced anywhere. We were only able to receive or to find reports from eyewitnesses and spies we have throughout the city that it was one of our members, one Valerie Nightingale.
She's dead.
And as you know, I assume at this point, that is the name of the attendant we've placed in the Hammerlock family.
Right, I've met her.
So, it's not a job per se, but we'd be eternally grateful if you would keep this secret from Master Hammerlock, Thaddeus, and see what you can do to find out the exact whereabouts of the gem and the reason why she would go about stealing it without a payment.
Okay. I have an idea of where it might be.
Depending on her motives, it would be a very serious black mark against her record with us. Someone who otherwise has a near flawless track record. So it's not a job per se, but if you do well, I can guarantee you that your reputation within this establishment will increase greatly.
Okay, I will scope around because I think I might know where it is.
Ah, excellent. If you already have a lead, then I am even more convinced now that I came to the right person about this. Just keep it as quiet as you can.
I will.
No one should know. Especially not Thaddeus.
Got it.
Thaddeus sneezes somewhere. Okay. Then...
Roger's just a machine, not a person, so you can tell him.
Except we're going back to Seattle shop.
Talking to Leah on the way.
Alyssa then sort of gives you a nod like, okay, that's all I had to say.
Okay. I'll
So
take
unless
my
you have
leave
anything
now.
else, if you have anything you wanted to talk to her about, you could, obviously.
Thanks for my share
Yes, well,
and for
the
accepting
sisterhood
me
always
into the
pays a share to someone who does a good job.
Great. All right, I'll be on my way. I want to sneak back in. Valerie knows I'm coming back.
All right, well then you better get going. And she's just sort of like nods towards the doorway.
Okay, I'm gonna stop and have a drink first.
Okay, where at? The dusty bottle.
The dusty model?
Well, I thought upstairs had a tap room.
Oh, of here, yes, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think they'd let you back in the dust bottle at this point.
I know.
Yeah, right?
The old man wouldn't be able to stop her.
no, yeah, the bouncer can't do anything. He's probably scared of her at
Yeah.
this point. He's in the hospital.
Please go home.
Bad reputation.
Bad reputation.
Yeah, you can stop up in the tap room, and it's like very small. There's only one or two people in there, and it's very cramped quarters.
Okay.
Like the table for the two people who are drinking there, and just sort of like these cloaked hoods, is like right up against your table where you settled down to get a drink. So you're right up next to them, and they just sort of like stop talking as soon as you come up there. But
Okay, and then after a drink, I'll make my way back and sneak up.
okay, roll a stealth check getting back in as well.
Okay, she wants me to do this one.
Don't blame it on me if it repeats.
Blame it on her.
Ooh,
Ooh, double
What did I
digits.
say? What did I say? Is that what is it?
20.
Okay, because I can't read what that is.
It's a 16.
It's a 16. Okay, so 20.
All right, how are you sneaking in?
It actually worked.
Let's see. I'm gonna make my way from the garden, and then. Do you think Gavin's in his room?
Do you think Gavin's in his room?
Okay, I'm gonna go.
You could look, and yeah, there's a light on in his room. It's
Okay.
like a dim, flickering lantern light.
Okay, so I think I'll go by way of Astrid's room,
Okay.
and then if I get caught, I have a pretense of saying I wanted to change back into my clothes.
So you're in your like fancy sundress, climbing up the drain pipe to Astrid's room, which is currently dark. You can see from the ground floor, there's no one there, and you're moving silently, like no one. It's just like you're making no noise at all.
Okay.
You push the window open and alight softly on the floor, and as you do so, there's a voice from the corner of the room over by the door to the room. That is Valerie's voice, and she says, welcome home.
Okay.
We were expecting you, or I was anyways. And then she opens the door to lead you out of Astrid's room.
Okay.
I rolled a natural 20, I'm sorry.
I said Valerie and I meant Astrid's because I was gonna.
No,
No,
you
no,
said
no, no.
Astrid.
Valerie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Valerie was in
Oh,
the
did I?
Valerie.
Sorry. No,
Okay.
that was my bad if I just
She
said Valerie.
rolled a natural 20 to see you.
I rolled a
Okay.
natural 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
That's
really
okay.
I was like,
sorry.
wait a minute.
No.
Okay.
You're in Astrid's room. Valerie was waiting for
Okay,
you.
she
Yep.
was waiting for me. I get it.
Yeah.
No.
I'm a little slow tonight.
I feel
sorry.
really bad
We all
because
are.
you finally rolled well and I rolled better.
Really good.
Of course you did.
I like almost bluffed that roll and just like said she didn't notice you, but then it was like, comedic effect.
Valerie's
Well,
just
she
really
knew I was
good.
coming back. So
Valerie
that's
is
not
good.
a that's not a really big deal because she
Yeah.
knew I was coming back. It's true.
Yes, so she sort of like motions towards the door for you. But then she notices you're in the dress and still in the dress and says, unless you'd like to get changed?
Yep, that's what I came in here for.
Excellent, then I'll be waiting right here. And she just sort of waits by the door.
Wonderful. Wait to see you again.
What has Thaddeus been doing?
I think the reason Astrid isn't in the room is because Daddy seems to be caught up talking with her.
Ah, okay.
Because like he did promise her, yeah, I'll stay the night, and so like I don't imagine Astrid would let that one night pass without like trying to
So
get
have
as
you
much
settled down
conversation.
like in your old bedroom or
Yeah,
back
my
in the
my
same
old bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like sitting on the bed,
Mhm.
just wanting to hear every one of your stories.
Yeah.
Like from your training to your travels, all of it.
I'll tell her about it.
Great thing.
I think I'll tell you. I didn't want to mention this in Harmony's company because she gets a bit. She'll deny it. She gets a bit embarrassed. She's actually a princess in her own right in a sort of barbarian kingdom.
I would not have gotten that impression, but she did mention that it's not what she's used to, all of this nobility and things like that. She brought up arranged marriages.
Yes, apparently they do things very differently in her country.
She didn't seem to understand that sometimes things are what they are.
Yes, that's something you and I learned very well growing up, but growing up in a family of magic users, I suppose one would learn that things are whatever you make of them.
I suppose that's true. I do appreciate that in our case, things will be what we make them as well. You don't know, and I don't mention enough how grateful I am for our agreement. I don't think I could stand my days here if I had to fill them studying and following Father around doing business dealings the way that Gavin wants to.
I don't think it'll be much longer. Maybe a year or two, and I'll be back for good.
I'd like that. As you saw, Gavin's not much company these days, and, well, I mean, Father has always kept to his study and his work, and Mother is always out. So, I mean, there's a lot of time where it's just me, and that's fine. I don't mind being alone, but...
I'm running a real insight on that.
Okay. Which part?
Don't mind being alone.
Okay.
That's a 17.
She does mind being alone, but she's trying to put on a strong face because she knows that, like, you chose to leave and that it's what you want to do. And yeah, you can see that in her expression.
Yeah. I'll say the day will come when our roles will be reversed. You'll have your freedom. Your chance to enter the world.
I don't even necessarily want to go out into the world. I know there's a lot to see out there, but I'm not strong like you are. I can't fight. I don't have the power of a deity on my side. It's just...
You don't know enough people is your problem.
I suppose that's true.
There are a lot of people in the world who lead good lives without our riches or powers or titles.
Well,
I've
then,
met a lot.
perhaps someday your friends can take me around a little bit when you come back to settle down.
Someday.
Not too far, but a little bit. That could be interesting. Trying to think if there's anything else she wants to say to you.
Actually, I'm going to ask her, have you ever been inside Gavin's room?
Well, of course I was in there more often when he was younger. Because I frequently helped out Mother and Valerie, but recently, no. He keeps the door locked most of the time.
I worry about him based on what I saw today.
I do too. It all started... I don't know. When did you leave? Would you say?
A while ago. It's somewhere.
Several years?
Yeah.
It started several years ago, maybe a year or so after you left. He started spending more time with Father. And things were fine for a while there, but then he started spending more time alone by himself instead of with Father. He still spends quite a bit of time with Father now, but nowhere near as much as he used to. He looked happier then.
When I have to leave again, Astrid, because I will in a few days, try and spend as much time with him as you can. And it may be unpleasant, but I think he could do with your influence.
I never stopped trying. He's just very stubborn. Well, you know how he gets.
Runs in the family, I suppose.
A little bit, yes, a little bit. I don't think she has anything in particular she wants to mention to you.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
But this sort of goes on for quite some time with you guys just catching up in a friendly manner. You guys are heading back to Ciel's shop with
Leah.
Leah Moonbrook.
I was.
Whew.
Oh, never mind. I guess we don't really need to talk to Leah on the way. We could, I suppose.
Well, I was gonna say, I think I'll ask you as we're starting to leave.
Mm-hmm.
I'll message you. And I'll say, how soon do you want to drop the illusion? Do you want to wait until we get to Ciel's shop, or do you want to drop it as soon as we're out of the sights of the mansion?
I normally like to have a disguise up throughout the city.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I won't drop
Too
it.
many autograph stickers.
What?
No.
Too many autographs.
The life of a celebrity.
All right, so we'll try to hail a taxi.
When you
I
roll an
guess.
natural 20 on your charisma, I mean.
Yeah,
It
I mean
goes
it's
better
easy
than that.
enough, and you don't get the weird looks you usually get while you're in your disguise.
Because
so
we're
that's
in our
one thing.
disguises.
Trying to get the
Leah,
ladies off me, though.
Leah still gets a few strange looks because a full
an
elf
elf.
is a little bit out of place, but it's nowhere near as much as when you and Hunter are going around in your normal appearances.
Oh, I thought you meant right now.
No.
Fabulous as we
Well,
are.
I mean, we are pretty fabulous right now.
You guys do catch a lot of looks from that.
Looks of admiration.
Yeah,
I'm
And then,
sure.
winking,
a lot of people are
Stuff.
doing the double take thing on the
Yeah.
street. Mhm.
signing autographs.
But it's not oh, what is this thing I'm looking at? Or
Yeah. They're not, disgusted or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we get in the taxi, I assume we were able to hail one.
easily enough. There's a higher congestion of them in this noble district as well. They hang out there because they think they'll get better tips and things. So
When we get in, I'll lean over to Leah and I'll say, "What have you seen?"
I think that discussion might be better served when we're a little more private. And she sort of glances at the taxi driver who looks back in the rearview mirror.
You could speak in generic terms.
Does she speak Sylvan?
She does.
I don't
So
speak
I
Sylvan.
speak Sylvan.
Do you?
Yeah, when I took linguist,
Oh,
that's one of the
yeah.
languages I took.
Okay.
So in Sylvan, I could ask the same question.
The driver is a human man, and so he sort of looks
This
back
isn't
when you
fair.
start speaking this language, and he doesn't. You can tell he doesn't understand it.
Yeah, sure.
I know. That's not fair.
Sylvan is sort of the
Fae.
fairy Fae language. So it's very airy, wispy tones, I think. She switches over to speaking Sylvan. This ought to be a safe tongue to speak. I didn't think that. Well, I didn't think that you would be a speaker of this tongue. Anyways,
I mean, I'm gorgeous enough to do this.
that's fair enough.
Guys, I know you love it.
In your current guise,
I
yes.
do.
I'm gonna remember this.
And she'll respond.
Harmony will remember this.
Yeah. Choices matter.
I happen to be scrying upon I happen to be scrying upon Helia Ironshield at the time of a very tragic event, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Did you see us there?
Yes.
Okay.
To put it shortly, I saw you and what the events that occurred afterwards, and I know that because of that, we have a mutual enemy. One who is hunting me. And after an encounter like that, is assuredly hunting you. And I thought perhaps we could help each other out.
I appreciate that and agree.
I'm gonna message Hunter. What?
She already has a boyfriend. I tried. And then I'm gonna keep talking to Leah.
What are you saying?
So, do you know Ciel, who we're going to see right now?
I know of her. She was friends with Helia.
Her.
Or, not her. I
So you know.
No,
I know. I'm just
I
giving you
tend
her
to
time. I'm just giving you her
say
time.
when I say one or the other, I say
Yeah, I
to her.
got you. It's okay.
I know of Seal because they were friends with Helia Ironshield. However, I've never had the pleasure of making acquaintance.
Okay, I'll introduce you when we get there then.
Excellent. Seal, I would suspect, is probably on the radar of these figures as well, which is another reason I was hoping to get in contact with you.
Okay.
The more people we have working together to evade them, the better, I figure.
And then I'll also say, like, while we're in the car ride, I'll be like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really enjoying what is happening right now and my companion's lament.
Yes, I must tell you, this is something that the Fae enjoy as well, for the most part.
How
So
ironic.
we can keep discussing whatever in this
Thank
time
you.
if you
Thank
wish
you.
to keep this going.
And I'm gonna like, after like short pauses, I would like message Harmony and be like,
You can't.
or oh, we don't have a message going?
No, I have
Okay.
to message you and then
Okay,
you
never
can
mind. Alright, well
respond.
then I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna pass. I'm not gonna.
It's like a ping. Is it ping?
If I ping you,
Oh.
you can answer, but you
Oh,
can't.
I
You don't
can't-
have a spell.
I thought
so
it was
you
like
can't
an
send it to
open,
me.
an open
No.
channel. Okay.
No.
It's not like an open Facebook chat that you can just send
No.
messages
Oh,
to.
There-
we're
is-
not on Hangouts anymore.
There is a spell like that, but it's 5th level.
Okay,
It's
never
not
mind.
a
Forget about
cantrip.
it. So I'm just gonna keep talking and chatting with Leah, and then I think then Hunter would not want to like make her repeat herself, so he wouldn't ask things that need to be spoken as a group. But then he would probably just start asking about her and like getting an idea of what the assembly evade is like, and just asking about divination. We don't
Okay.
actually need to.
Yeah, I mean, the only information that is really important out of that is that she mentions that the Assembly of Eight is sort of in shambles right now, as you've mentioned.
Oh,
so things
Yeah,
are
and I would
very,
want to
very
ask
different.
like if she's able to scry, if she knows of the other.
I know of 2 others that are.
I'm busy right now. Okay, I'm
I
having a
know.
conversation.
I can wait.
I know of 2 others that are alive and well right now, and
Okay,
I think we may be the last ones.
so you and 2 others.
There's Welby Toscobble. He's in hiding. He's the transmutation
So-
master.
I would. Okay.
And there is the master of necromancy, whose name is Yin. And he's currently alive. He's sequestered within the castle itself, which is a rather safe place. I'd go there myself, but I'm afraid it's a little bit too obvious.
Okay. And then also later, after we're done speaking as a group,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask you a few things, depending on. Yeah, I'd like to ask you a few things in private.
And she says, "Yes, we could arrange some time to speak in private. That's perfectly fine."
Not that this isn't very private, and I like to look at Harmony again.
Is Harmony raising her hand?
No, this is Kay, the player, raising her hand, waiting my turn.
Uh-huh.
While this is happening, I'm going to cast Prestidigitation, and on his face, I'm going to write the words, Hunter is a poopy head.
Okay. Leah
And it
Stones-
lasts for an hour!
Leah Stonesberg doesn't like betray the fact that that's there at all. Like,
Yep.
She just
Do
lets
I
it
know
happen.
that I'm being written?
Nope.
Don't care either.
Nope.
Yep. Because
You'll see it.
I have so many up on Harmony right now. I
You'll
don't
see
even
it.
care.
You'll see it.
Don't
Uh,
even care.
So you get out of the car.
I can't even
the-
resist the spell.
I don't think so. Not with prestidigitation. You get out of the vehicle at Seal's shop, and it is starting to get to nightfall.
Okay.
It's an illusion. Yeah. Well, it's
So,
not.
so we get to Seal shop,
Mm-hmm.
and then so let everyone out, and then I'll pay the taxi driver.
Yeah, and it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
don't
So
worry
and
about
then
anything off.
Harmony's just gonna storm right into the shop
Hunter's very
So
happy.
is-
without even waiting.
Is that the way?
Yeah, follow me, and then I'll.
As Leah gets up to the cabinet door,
Harmony just has crawled in. She's inside.
she sort of looks at it and says, "I'm currently not allowed in. If you could speak with Seal and get them to let me in, that would be incredible." And Seal is right in the door, like watching you storm in and
I'm just
out.
gonna run and grab them around the waist and be like,
I can't remember what color Seal's hair was today. I think it was red. Was that
Is
it?
it-
Red or green.
Is this still the red and gold
red
day?
and gold.
Yeah, I
Red
think it was
gold.
red and gold.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Seal is there with the wonderful red
Hunter
hair.
was being mean to me. Also, don't let them in.
Well, I've already allowed Hunter for the day. Who else is there? Then who?
Right. Leah Moonsbrook,
Leah Moonsbrook, you don't
Assembly
say.
Master.
And Ciel pokes the head out the cabinet,
And then I'll introduce, right when she comes out, I'll introduce, oh, Ciel, this is Leah, Leah, this is Ciel.
Hunter's
Ciel looks...
Harmony is going onto one of the sofas and is just gonna sit there cross-legged and pout.
Okay.
Did you drop our illusion?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Ciel
Nope.
looks Leah up and down and says,
Okay.
Because of the poopy head.
Well, Poopy Head is a different spell.
it's true.
Okay.
Looks Leah up and down and says, ah, yes, so I see, it is you. And motions for Leah to come in, and the cabinet then expands and allows Leah to enter in.
And then I, just out of curiosity, I'm gonna like go back to the window and like look outside and see if anyone's like following us or something.
Roll a perception check.
I rolled 1.
The
So-
streets are dark, the street lights are starting to come on.
Okay.
They flicker on shortly. but-
And then I'm gonna use the dagger because I can't use it inside.
Right.
So I'm gonna use the dagger and like see if. Our Skype call
Mandus
started.
is sitting there in his chair waiting for you.
Okay, so he's.
Are you
looking-
outside with
Nope, I
No,
am still inside.
I need to go fetch her.
That
so,
was just
Who
me
is-
being excited.
there's a character from Ravenmore named Mandus. He's the
Oh,
owner.
okay.
He's the leader of an orphanage.
Okay.
He was our mentor. for
He
a
was
while.
our dad.
And you recently got a hint that Hunter, back when he was Zant, was traveling to Ravenmore to seek out a
Silver Dragon.
group of silver dragons for help.
Yeah.
So
So Mandus is there,
Mhm.
and then so do our normal Skype thing and say, Harmony's inside a place. I'll go get her real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he just scribbles back, okay.
And then great to see you. And then so I'll go into Ciel's area.
Did you do it while the illusion was still up? How
Oh,
did
yeah, I
you
did,
react
didn't
to
I?
seeing Hunter? It's like,
Oh,
We're just
yeah, I
like,
forgot about that.
Gaston Hunter!
Yeah, so when you appear in the dagger...
So I don't obviously I didn't remember at all. I was like,
And
oh,
it
there's
says
Mandus.
Hunter is a poopy head on his
the first message he gets back is, "Who are you? And what has Harmony done to your face?"
And then I was like, and Hunter does one of these things like classic Harmony, and then he's like Hunter, and then we're under an illusion spell, and then we launch into the.
He
And
nods.
what has Harmony done to your face?
And
Because
then-
it says Hunter is a poopy head on your
And then I'm like, what has Harmony done to me? And then I would and then before I get Harmony, I'd try find a mirror.
Yeah, I
And
mean the there's a mirror in the shop.
Yeah,
basically.
and I look at it and see.
Interesting,
What I
because
see.
if he can't show emotion or any kind of expression when he's under illusion, he can.
Yep.
How?
Because it's
Okay, how would he
Yeah.
manipulate?
It's
okay,
magic.
It's magic.
It's
It's
magic.
magic.
Fantasy physics. So
Yeah.
anyway, so then after that, Hunter will go into the. He doesn't care because he did great things in the tag team. So he's gonna go into the Ciel's chambers and fetch Harmony,
Harmony's gonna just sit there
and then he's gonna try and make a sound of the jingle with the silver dagger. Like, you gonna join Mandus and I? Okay, Harmony, I'll just talk to him by myself, and then he's gonna leave.
Okay.
And then, before that, he's gonna be he's gonna mention to Ciel and Leah, be like, I'll be right back, and if Harmony is coming with us, we'll be right back.
Nope, I'm sitting there, I'm mad at him.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna start talking with Mandus.
Mandus writes that he's happy to see that you're doing well.
Yeah.
And that Harmony is very clearly doing well. Mandus,
So I
over
would
the course of the travels, has
has
met
not met
Thaddeus.
has met Thaddeus, not
briefly.
Mara. Doesn't know about
Did
Nazria.
he meet Thaddeus over the dagger? Or
Yes,
just,
over the
okay.
dagger.
So, to paraphrase, I would fill in what happened with Nazria, so he's aware. Just because I would mention that we met a new companion.
I think I'm gonna come out after like 5 minutes because I do want to talk.
So probably after we,
Yeah, after you've described
Painfully right.
that Nazria left.
yeah.
And
all
he
that
writes
stuff.
back, well, I'm glad to hear that Nazria found her companion. They
Yeah.
found the what they were looking for, and
Mhm.
that she is well on her way to dealing with the threat that has been attacking her people.
And then, so now Harmony would be here, right? Or, no, you're here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we? I can't remember. Did we
You
talk to
did.
him after the orcs? Yeah. So I told him about my tribe.
And then, and
So I'll
then,
come out all sheepishly, like.
yeah, and then I would point the dagger so he sees her, and
And he writes, I presume that's Harmony?
No, I think I would have dropped the illusion before I
Oh,
So
changed
we
it.
dropped the illusion.
Yeah.
You write,
Am I still a poopy head?
Yes. That's a different spell, so that's still there.
Okay.
That lasts for an hour.
Alright. It's fine. So,
It's fine.
it's fine. And then I would... I'm still a winner in my heart. And then I would write in, like, miraculously I recovered all my memories, or, you know, most of them. And then I had some questions for you, and Tal, I guess, if he's there too.
And he writes, Tal's not here at the moment, but I could get him if you like.
No, that's okay. We're just looking for information that you may not have readily anyways, so...
And he sort of sits back in his chair and gets ready to receive your questions. And I think that's where we'll end for tonight, since it's getting to be about 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So thank you to everyone who tuned in. It was very RP heavy, so if you were lost, I hope you made use of the Twitch commands to get information about what's going on. If you were still lost but were interested, we're going to be rebroadcasting tomorrow. I believe, yes. And we try to hang out and talk to people then, so you can come and ask questions of us then, which we can't always do during the actual show. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you back next week for more Antiheroes Anonymous. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.